Alright, what's going on, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This one's going to be doing another Walking Dead character spotlight type of video. Going to be focusing on and talking about what I think they're going to do with Tyreese in The Walking Dead Season 5, and also just give my general opinions on the character so far. Alright, good stuff. So I thought out of all the characters, Tyreese is a good one to get started with leading up to The Walking Dead Season 5. He's become a pretty mainstay character in the Walking Dead television series now. Had a lot more time in Season 4 than when he did in Season 3 when he was introduced. Of course, being introduced about halfway through in Made to Suffer with his Splinter group, really small group. Sasha, you had Alan, Donna, and was it Ben? And the others, of course, the only survivors out of that now are Tyreese and Sasha, which I don't want to say it's predictable, but kind of a little. It was a little predictable in terms of them. The rest were kind of fodder. But so those two, I think, in the future are going to be very heavy influences for the show. We even saw Sasha kind of get about, I want to say, half an episode with her, Bob, and Maggie, so that was cool as well too. And Tyreese getting an entire episode in the Grove with Carol. Also, of course, early on in Season 4, he had a heavy influence because of his relationship with Karen. I really liked how they handled that whole thing with Karen, because she's a new character that wasn't in the comic book series, and it really made sense that if he was to see her get killed, in a rage, he would get into a fist fight with Rick. The comic book series, it was kind of more like a fight for leadership, I want to say, or fight, well, kind of, but also due to some other circumstances that happened. But I like the switch in the TV series and the way they've done it. Tyrese is one of the characters that out of all of them from the comic book series, his storyline of how he's introduced and how we meet him and everything is completely different from how it was in the comic books. In the comic book series, we meet him in issue number 7. So that's like the second trade paperback right away, right at the beginning of the story. If I had to give it an equivalency, I'd say Season 2, Episode 1 is about, in terms of the comic book series, where we meet him. So it was interesting that they kind of held him back and didn't bring him into the show when they would have, based on the line. But they instead gave Shane extra time, which I thought was really good, and then didn't even bring him in until that halfway mark of Season 3, was part of the Governor's group for a good portion of that, and then eventually at the end became part of Rick's group, and we sort of finally saw him become like I want to call like a season regular type character on the show. Season 4, if you're a Tyreese fan, I think you'd like it quite a bit because he's got a lot of time in it. Of course, the fight, and then the thing with Karen and David. Going on from there, you have the scene with the herd that he fights through with the hammer, which was really cool, similar to the comics, but a similar type situation, but in different circumstances again, which is really cool. And then, of course, in Too Far Gone, since he was introduced too late, I like the switch where they kind of changed him out with Herschel. I thought that was a really good change and a lot different from the comic book series version, with more impact, I almost want to say, because Tyreese was brought in later. It wouldn't have had the same impact as it did in the comic book series. So I think that's smart on how they did that. I'm really curious to see how long Tyreese lives for in the TV series, because the comic book series version is already dead at this point. I think if they killed him off right now or soon, even though he's a character that I do think could possibly be killed, like I'd put him in a maybe, I guess, in terms of like a death prediction. I can see a reason for them to not do it, because it would be kind of predictable if you were to kill him off in the next 2 seasons, right? But at the same time, Rick has a good number of like number 2 type guys. He's got Daryl, who's his number 2, right? Because Shane was earlier on, right? Then you have Abraham, who's already arrived now as well. And then on top of that, you've got Tyreese out there. So that position, if you want to think of it as like a number 2, it's a bit crowded, a little bit, because it's more like number 2, 3, 4, yeah. So, it's really hard to say, I think, what they're going to do with him. He's kind of like, even though he's a character from the comic book series, at this point, he has no material for them to draw from. because of the fact, like I said, he was killed off. Now they have to completely create a new storyline for him for the TV series version, which makes him interesting because it's like he's a new character, right? Even though he's got the same name, we don't know if he has the same attributes, like in terms of his past life before the zombie apocalypse. We don't know if he was played NFL, because played in the NFL. In the comic book series version, he was a linebacker, a car salesman, and also a bouncer. So yeah, so we don't know if that's the same. I would assume it probably is for the TV series version. But he sure seems, to me personally anyway, he seems pretty smart compared to the comic book series version. He seems smarter than the comic book series version. The comic book series version, to me, I don't know. I never personally thought of him as really that intelligent of a character from reading it. Here's a good quote from the TV series from The Grove. He says to Carol, "The whole world is haunted now. We are who we are, and we do what we do, and there's no getting out of that, not until we're dead." Very interesting quote. I really like that one quite a bit, and I don't remember reading anything like that from him in the comic book series, which tells me he's almost like a completely different character aside from looking fairly close to the same and possibly having the same background. So that said, I like the television series version better than the comic book series version of Tyreese already. I think Chad Coleman does an absolutely fantastic job of playing him. I think the fight, in the comic book series version, the fight between Rick and Tyreese, it was almost reminiscent of Shane and how Rick had trouble with Shane. Same kind of thing with Tyreese. The TV series, I like it a lot better because it's kind of like Rick has all this pent up aggression anyway at what's happened in the world, right? Just waiting to be unleashed. And then you have Tyreese, who, he really loved Karen and he felt that way for her, and now what's happened to her, he has almost no one left that he really, really loves aside from Sasha, right? These other people, like at the prison stuff, he knows them pretty well. I guess they're kind of like good friends or getting close to family type thing. Maybe a few more years if they were living together in zombie apocalypse, they would feel more like family. But for him, you really got to feel that loss, because I think they really showed that the two were close, and that they cared about each other with him, talking to her earlier on about having to go out on a run and that kind of stuff, and not wanting her to be worried, and it played off really nicely, even though it was a short amount of time that we had saw them together. It wasn't like we saw them for a really long time, but there was a 6-month time skip, so it makes sense for that. So overall, I think he's a really fun character. I like the hammer. I like the whole he's like a melee tank in a zombie apocalypse. For those of you who play strategy games, that kind of stuff. He's not great with firearms, but he gets in close with a hammer and he's able to smash up walkers really good. Let's see. I think that's pretty much all I want to say about Tyrese so far from what we've seen from him. I'm excited to see where they go with him in the TV series and what new material they create for him, since the equivalent of it, he wouldn't even still be alive. So that said, in terms of like a death prediction, man, it's hard to say for him, I think, and how long he'll actually make it. They could keep him around for maybe, I want to say 2-3 more seasons type of thing. I don't think he would survive on past that, because you have Abraham and you have the others too, so it'd be a little crowded with him in there. And at the same time, if they killed him off right away, it might be a little too predictable. So maybe go somewhere in the middle. Maybe he'll survive season 5, and then season 6 or 7, I'd put him on a more closer type of death watch, as I think he would probably be killed off around that time. So kind of excited to see some more zombie smashing action from him with that good old hammer. Like the stuff between him and Carol, like how they kind of played on the whole, did she, her doing it, the whole thing with Lizzie and their decisions there, and kind of the way he has forgiven her for doing that, and he kind of accepts it as necessary, and that she would have probably died anyway at this point, So I think that's really cool. Let's see. I think that's pretty much all I want to say about Tyreese. I think he's a great character. I think he's a lot of fun to see. And I look forward to that uncertainty of what are they going to do with him? Which direction are they going to go? what kind of material are they going to give him, because he's basically a character that has no source material to draw from now. And I think that's interesting, because they could go a lot. They could go anywhere with him because there's nothing to draw from. Whereas the others, a lot of times you can kind of think they're going to go close to how it was, originally in the books, with some small deviations, right? Aside from Andrea, maybe. But with him, there's nothing. So you have to totally make up a new story for him, going through, the zombie apocalypse life with the other survivors. So I'm excited to see him, Carol, and Judith. And when they get reunited with the rest of the group, I assume they will. I'd be shocked if they didn't. I'm pretty sure they're going to. Let me know what you guys think about Tyreese, and I think next I'll do a Carol character spotlight, give my thoughts on Carol, because she's a really interesting character, man. She's got a lot of angles to her and stuff, and she's been around for a while. Tyreese is a little bit more difficult to do because he's only been around for a season and a half, and season 4 was crowded. There was a lot of characters that got a lot of time, even Beth, and the others. So Tyreese got a good amount of time, but he hasn't been around for all that long. So I think at this point, that's about all I can say. He's a really fun character. He's one of my more likable survivors. I put him on the same scale as like Glenn. I like him quite a bit. He's not my absolute favorite, but he's close to maybe like a top 10, that kind of thing, like somewhere between like top, between 7 and 15, my top favorite characters. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about Tyreese, and I'll call it here. That's it for this video, guys. I'll see you for the next one. This is Trev. As always, say peace.